Cougar Coaches Show here on MediaCom Channel 22. My name is Cosmo with the head coach of the track and field programs at Columbia College, cross-country programs, Tim Cornell. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Fantastic news with the national indoor meets. We'll just start right at the top. Is there anything that Lindsey Martin has not done or been able to do in her career here at Columbia College? What an athlete.
Well, much to her chagrin, she hasn't quite won that national title. It's coming, and it's coming fast. But 2 second places within half an hour of one another in the 3,000 and the 5,000 was very special to watch.
And that was, again, I remember that day, there was a men's basketball game here, and Cindy Potter tells me, she goes, hey, we got two-time All-American. I'm like, so what did Lindsey do today? And to find out that it was a 3K, and then very shortly after, then a 5K, and both second place finishes. Talk a little bit about the day that was for her, and then just the event in general with the indoor championships.
Sure. So the Indoor National Championships was in Geneva, Ohio. It's just outside of Cleveland at a beautiful institute called the Spire Institute. They have a 300-meter indoor track up there. The Big Ten runs their championship there. The Big East has run their championship there in the past. It's just a remarkable facility, and we like it because it's bigger than the standard 200-meter indoor track. And so our kids, the wear and tear on the body is a little less. They're able to run fast times and compete really well at that championship, which is what it's all about. We went there with 6 athletes, 3 men, Tommy Skoski, Brendan Cape, and Michael McCulloch, and 3 women, Julia Montgomery, Emily Schultz, and Lindsey Martin. Lindsey came away with the 2 All-American awards in the 3,000 and the 5,000, and then also very special, Emily Schultz earned her first All-American award, and that's always a really fun time for the coach because you see a kid working so hard and being so close, and then they get over that hump, and they're an All-American, and they know that that work has paid off at that point.
Explain what exactly the threshold is to earn that award of being titled an All-American athlete.
Sure. It's top 8 in every event. So you have the top 8 5,000-meter runners for Emily's case, and she ran 17:42 a day, 2 days after running 17:48, and both of those were personal bests for her. So she was able to PR, run her best time ever in the 5,000, come back 48 hours later, do it again, and finish 7th in that event, and that was really, really cool.
What do you think was the reason for her being able to do that?
Well, Emily comes from a traditional powerhouse in Missouri. West Plains, track and field and cross country has been very good for a long time. And she came in with a powerful aerobic base. They run a lot down in West Plains, and so that really helped her to come in and be a good athlete for us. And it's just taken time and maturity, being able to race at this level. She's made jumps every single year. Had a breakout last year at the pre-national meet in cross country, was not able to sustain that level of performance, had to learn to deal with the pressure of running at this level, and she's done that and done a wonderful job this year.
And that goes back to a lot that we've talked over the months of the season and the last couple of years about how much the mental side of whether it's the cross country or the shorter distances, that's just as much of a hurdle, pardon another event term, than it is just the actual cardio and fitness level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a huge part of it. And coming from the University of Missouri and being under Dr. Rick McGuire, and that positive coaching model that he's portrayed for so many years, you really understand what that means. And the thing that he talks about so much is an optimal arousal level. And that means that you can't get too high and you can't get too low when it comes to your event. And that level is different for football than it is for track and field. And even within track and field, it's different for a shot putter versus a hurdler versus a distance runner. And Emily and Lindsey have both fine-tuned the mental side of their running to make sure that they can consistently perform at that All-American level now.
Especially when the big events, the 3 and the 5K, were so close together. It's one thing where you might have a couple of hours in between to have a little bit of downtime to catch your breath literally and mentally kind of take a little bit of a break and refocus the mind a little bit and get the body ready to go. But to quickly turn it around as fast as they had to do, and then to have the performance she did was just fantastic.
Well, and I've never seen anything like it, to be honest. And as a coach, you're kind of scratching your head. You're like, man, did I put this athlete in a situation where they can't succeed? And we talk a lot about it, and we talk about plan A and plan B and plan C, but you never really know what's going to happen. And it was just a matter of Lindsey choosing to be successful on those days. She was very physically capable of doing both the 3 and the 5, even with that 30-minute window in between. But she had to be engaged, and she had to choose to do both, and she did. And she ran wonderfully that day.
I know, as you said, we talked before we were filming, I know she was bummed that she didn't win, but at the same time, that's when sometimes the real coaching begins, and it's trying to build them back up after maybe a little bit of a setback with the finish they didn't want.
Yeah, and there are a lot of different ways to define success. In track and field, everything is so objective, where we have places and we have times and people are put into lists. We forget sometimes that there are different ways to be a winner. And for me, finishing second in the 3 and the 5 with 30 minutes in between, she probably got more congratulations for those 2 races than she would have if she had won just one of them. I know she would have.
And the competition level that she was facing and all the runners were facing, talk about the level of all of that. I mean, there's a wide variety of schools that were there and levels of athletes that
Well, these are the best schools in the NEI. And you don't ask for anything more than that. You go to the championship level to compete against those people and to try and beat those people and to see what you have on that day. So when we talk about running really well, those are the times that we want to run well. And it has nothing to do with time. It has everything to do with how you compete against the person next to you. So I was very proud of those 2 and really everybody who was there for stepping on the line and giving it their best.
Talk about the guys' performance. What did they bring?
Yeah, so a couple young guys, 2 sophomores qualifying, Brennan Cape in the 5,000, Tommy Skowski in the 1,000, and then Michael McCulloch, who's a junior for us, qualifying in the 5,000. Tommy probably put up the best performance, finishing in the middle of the pack in the 1,000. He's a better distance runner, but we felt that the 1,000 was his best chance to hit a final this year. Brennan and Michael ran well in the 5,000, just not well enough to make the final. But they both got another year at least, and they'll come back and learn from this championship experience and use it to get to that next championship and then make the final and then earn an All-American award like Emily did this year.
And some people say, well, if he's such a good distance runner, well then 1,000's shorter, how come he can't, and that's where you really have to, it's about pacing and where they really kind of find that groove.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tommy's a special kid. He came to us from Fox High School via Lindbergh High School, and a lot of what he did was 800-meter oriented. They had a great 4x800 meter relay in high school at both Lindbergh and Fox, and so he has that background to be able to run a good 1,000 where they're only 200 meters apart. And from a strategic standpoint, I felt like he was very good at that race and that he had a good shot. So those are some of the things that you think about when you're adjusting and trying to find the right spot for your athlete.
Now, not only are you molding and forming the current athletes that you have, you're looking with Columbia Cougar blue shaded glasses at the future, as I see the T and F on the side of your hat as well for track and field. When you go to this event, obviously you're looking at things completely differently than you did the year and 2 years prior, because you're looking at everything now that next year you'll be bringing a whole nother set of talent skills levels for different athletes with the track and field sports. How was that for you as far as knowing, kind of keeping an eye on everything in that regard, knowing what is coming in the future months here at Columbia College?
Well, I definitely had more of an eye on it before. In the past, as a competitive person, you think, well, what if? Right. What if? And I kind of always knew that it was coming at some point. It was just a matter of when. Right. And this was the year that we get to sit back and kind of watch and say, okay, what do we need to compete with the best teams in the country? How do we build our program? And I think that's the most interesting question. There are teams who do it with distance runners, with sprinters, with throwers as an emphasis, and for me it's about being well-rounded. So we want to hire good assistant coaches and make sure that every area of our track and field program is solid so that we can compete with whoever we come across.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as the teams are concerned, obviously you would have different athletes qualifying in different events, shot putters, jumpers, whatever, and then they would all come as a team, individually compete in their special events and would collect points, right, to go towards a team total?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's different. So, for instance, our women finished 14th in the country in track and field, even though we're not technically a track and field team right now. And it really helps when you have great athletes. Right. And championships in track and field right now are built on the backs of several great athletes or many good athletes. Mm-hmm. So if you have 5 Lindsey Martins, then track and field is pretty easy. But yeah, you go and if you're top 8, if you're an All-American, then you score points. So if you're 8th, you score 1 point. Gotcha. And if you're first, you score 10 points, and then there's a graded scale that goes down from there.
Now, the sports, are they weighted the same as far as points, or is your high jumper potentially earn more points than a shot putter, vice versa, or
Well,
anything of those?
that's where it gets kind of interesting.
Political, huh?
So there are events that cross over to other events more easily. So my 5,000 runner is never going to be able to cross over to the 100, but my long jumper might be able to cross over to the 100 if they're really good. So, yeah.
Let's keep track.
So if you've got a great long jumper
Right.
or a great jumper, then they can potentially score 20 points.
Gotcha.
Whereas if you have a great distance runner, they might score 16 points, like Lindsay did at the indoor championships. So you try and allocate your resources to get those kids who can cross over a little bit more easily at the shorter distance or at the jumps or in the throws, so that you can score bigger points at a national championship.
How does that then translate to how you do begin with this blank canvas of the track and field program? Where do you start trying to figure out? I know there's already a couple athletes that are committed, and how does that process begin as far as who do you go after?
Well, you start to look for great athletes, number one. You have great athletes and you look like a really good coach. That's rule number one that Bob has taught me. And second, we've got to find depth. So we'll look to mid-Missouri, the entire state of Missouri, to find that depth. There are good track and field athletes within 2 hours of Columbia, Missouri, and we know that. And we're going to go find those kids and find the great ones along the way to score those points at a national meet to make Columbia College the track and field program that we want it to be.
Now at the NAI level, is it similar, obviously with, I know Coach Klein and Coach Bob Burchard, as you mentioned, between soccer and basketball, a lot of the recruiting is a mix of some JUCO transfers as well. Is that something that happens a lot in track and field, or is it maybe not quite as prominent as in some of the other sports?
I think it looks similar to the other sports. JUCO is probably not as heavy as a basketball or a men's soccer or a volleyball, but there will absolutely be a mix of transfers more than ever at the college level, junior college kids, and then four-year freshmen coming in.
Especially when you have a school that has the education base that
Yes.
Columbia College offers, and
Yeah.
when athletes' direction changed, and all of a sudden they're going to, we're going to do JUCO for this 2 years and then go here, and now all of a sudden there's this program at Columbia, and they say, wait a minute,
Sure.
might come over this way instead.
I think we're a draw, so we'll find the kids who think the same thing.
And then as far as that recruiting mission, what is the timeline on coaching staff and grad assistants and all that kind of stuff?
Well, we'll begin to piece together that coaching staff through the second half of this year. So we've been in the process of hiring assistant coaches right now. We're close to concluding that process. And as soon as that assistant coach is on campus, then we'll begin to recruit the graduate assistants. And the graduate assistants will fill in wherever that assistant coach does not.
Gotcha. And then as far as the current athletes that you have now with cross country and the track and field, or the distance teams and everything now, how do they translate? Will some of those cross over to some other events on track and field? Or
I don't think so. I think that their experience is going to look very similar to what it has in years past. We've done track and field at a high level. We've just done it in one event area.
Right.
And now we need other event areas to perform at the same level that the cross country team has over the past couple of years. And that's our mission.
And what is the mission with the athletes that are here? I mean, what happens next as far as the off season, if you will, training for them, summer programs, and how does the rest of that work down the stretch of school time and not in competition mode anymore?
Yeah, well, we've got the outdoor track and field season
outdoor
coming up.
Okay.
So we get going here in just over a week at Wash U in St. Louis with a very nice meet there, the Washington University Invitational. We'll have about 10 weeks for the outdoor track and field season, and then we get back into the base building phase. And that's when the track and field wheels will really start to turn, and we'll get in on the current junior class of recruits, and that's where the big numbers are going to come from for us.
So the outdoor season, how many meets will you guys compete in as far as the outdoor session is concerned?
Well, depending on the athlete, they'll either compete in 4 or 5 regular season track and field meets. If they're on the shorter end of the spectrum, they'll compete in more meets. If they're on the longer end, it'll be fewer meets. And it all wraps up with the AMC Championships on May 2nd, and then May 21st through 23rd is the Outdoor Championships for the NAIA.
And where is the conference championships?
The conference championships is in Greenville, Illinois. We're in an interesting situation where no one in the conference has a physical outdoor track that we can use. And so we'll rent Greenville College's outdoor track over in Greenville, Illinois for the day.
Interesting. And the Nationals, where will that be?
That is down in Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Oh, nice.
So it'll be a nice trip. Yep.
Can't wait. I'm going this summer for a family vacation. So beautiful.
Started a little early.
Yeah, why not? We'll go down early and run some track and see how the Cougars do. Well, good luck on the recruiting trail, building the track and field program, the TNF side of your hat there. Congrats to all the athletes, Lindsay especially, and the All-American status, and we'll see what comes in the future here for the cross country and the track and field teams.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Coach Tim Cornell, Columbia College track and field and cross country here on the Coaches Show on MediaCom Channel 22.